Hi, everyone, and welcome to Real Siblings. It Ain't Easy. I'm Eric Seaman, realtor with Keller Williams Heritage in San Antonio, Texas, and I am here with my sister.
I'm Donna Reed, and I'm with Keller Williams, Southern Arizona.
As you are about to find out, this is not your typical real estate podcast. In fact, we blend lifestyle and real estate to entertain and inform our listeners. We work to connect what made the two houses we both lived in with our parents and brothers and the two additional houses where Donna raised her family decades later, so influential in our careers. We have recognized that the properties are only a portion of the equation, and that the balance is comprised of our life and upbringing in the small farming village of Lindsay, Ohio. The combination of our idyllic lifestyle together with memorable homes positively and irrevocably impacted our lives and careers in real estate. I wrote this thing. In the Southwest states where we now reside, we hope that our audience will find our nostalgic conversation, despite all of its turns, enlightening and entertaining. And in the end, we hope we will be successful in providing you some expert knowledge of our markets while we share some history, statistics, or simply information about real estate that you may not be aware. Wow.
That's what we get for trying to be planned, you know.
My gosh.
The
All
heck
right.
with that.
So with that intro and all of our banter back and forth, anything
Yeah.
going on in Tucson today?
Yeah. You know what? Today is like you told me it was like 90 degrees where you are. It is freezing here today, and I've been wearing my Norwegian scarf around my it's been so cold. And everybody that's here for the warm weather is not very happy right now. But
Okay, so
anyway, I
no,
can't see it.
trying to show you that it's officially right now 83 out here
Oh
on
my
our
Lord.
side.
Well, hopefully some of that will come our way. So yeah, we have talked about the house, the brick house, the 1868, the brick Victorian that you and I both remember the most, right? Because of how old we are when we lived there. We haven't spent a whole lot of time talking about the other homes. So remind me, how old were you when we moved from Main Street to Lynn Street?
6 to 7.
Okay. Okay.
Depending on exact timing. Yeah.
Yeah. So for Eric, for right now, you guys, if you're watching this again, Eric has the two homes that we lived in together as a family behind him, and then I have the other two homes behind me that I lived in 20 some years later. And as always, we have different memories, different recollections. So this is the story we've been told, and so mom and dad aren't around to correct us, you know, but there was a flood in Fremont before the flood wall was put up along the Sandusky River, and the home where we lived, we say we floated to Lindsay. And you're right, I remember Grant even writing that and doing a little radio show about that, you know, like 5th grade. So we wound up in Lindsay. And the first home that we lived in there was on Main Street, South Main Street, which is funny because later I lived on North Main Street, and that amused me that
they were a tenth of a mile apart. I would have always thought the railroad tracks was the dividing line between the north and the south, instead
the
of
other side of the tracks, whatever that.
the last cross street.
Yeah.
Before on the north side of town, it was all the north. It was very.
Yeah. It did never knew that. Anyway, we lived on Main Street at 107 together from like 59 through 73. And then dad bought the big one at an auction, right? Came home for lunch, told mom he'd bought a house. And he stayed there until he sold the house when he remarried in 2001. So my husband and I, when we moved back there, we had been renting in Fremont, and then we moved to the house on Walnut Street, which is one of the ones behind me. It's a 2-story home. And then after that, we moved down to 134 North Main, as we had discussed. So Eric, you and I, you know, as always, we're chatting a little before we start these recordings. And we were talking about the fact that in our memory, the same family owned 107 South Main as owned 134 North Main. That was the Fote family, right?
Correct.
That's the story we've been told. But then you also did some research on the tax records or whatever you call them, the auditor's office. Tell us what you found out.
Yeah, the auditor's office.
Yeah.
The Sandusky County Auditor, and that's a regional terminology, I guess, because here in San Antonio, we're appraisers. I've had clients from the Rocky Mountain states
Yeah.
that it was the assayer's office, all doing the
Ah,
exact same thing, but different terminology. And the
yeah.
fact that they all start with an A doing the exact same thing, but regionalized in terminology, one of those weird things that what sticks
Re-
in your head,
Real
right?
estate A words. So, but what didn't we? Okay, you and I have always thought that both homes on Main Street were built 57, 58-ish, mid-century, late 50s. And then the records that you looked up said that the one that we lived in together was built in 1900.
Yeah, what the South Main Street house, the first one that from
Yeah,
coming from Fremont,
yeah.
that along with the house on Lynn Street and your house on Walnut Street all show that they were built in 1900.
Maybe they
And
just went back that far and then they just made them because they knew they were then, or
well, I don't know
wow.
if I did not have a chance to look this part up.
Yeah.
Was there some sort of significant weather event that destroyed records and they just defaulted?
Maybe
Because
that
I
flood.
know down here in Texas, there have been Medina County, which is right next to where I live,
Yeah.
Bandera County had a tornado that wiped out records. And
Ah,
so any of the sewer systems and septic systems installed prior to 1985 were all destroyed. So everything defaults to having been 1986. And I wonder if the same thing didn't happen because we both know the Lynn Street house was not built in 1900. We've got photos
right.
from the Miller family that were taken before 1900 on the front
Right.
stoop.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. So we
so
know that's not true. Yeah.
the other
Eh,
was the square footage of the
Yeah.
houses, because from what I could tell on the house on Lynn Street, the big brick one, that they didn't give any credit to the third floor mansard roof from a square footage standpoint.
Well, nobody would
A
live there.
truly a staircased walk-in attic, and
Yeah.
they didn't give it any kind of living space. There were workable dormer windows. I don't know about you, but in our market, there are plenty of houses that are built that have fake dormers.
I think that you would have had to have been able to stand up there, and our family could barely stand up there and make it room. So I don't know. I don't
Yeah, I
know if
wasn't 6 foot when we moved in, so I got to play up there a lot more. So maybe
that's
that was
true.
it. The
That's
other
true.
is the house on South Main Street, the
Yeah.
white one that's pictured behind me with a little bit of snow. I gotta
Yeah.
move the right direction. Uh, it does not show having a second story. The auditor's office has it as an attic.
Oh, and we know that. Well, my dresser there. So if you're as you went up those stairs, we walked through my bedroom, and it was a hallway bedroom, and then Dan had the dormer, which you can kind of see in the front eventually, and you guys had the other room. But my dresser actually went into the attic. So I wonder if, like, I don't know. I don't know. It's fascinating, and nobody's gone back to change the records, right? It isn't
Right,
like
and
some,
nobody's
yeah,
gone to correct it. So the
yeah,
house on North Main Street,
yeah.
the single story, which we know was not a single story,
No, three
it, it
levels.
was it was a tri-level, right? That one shows in one part of the same record that it was built in 1958, and a couple lines down on the exact same record it says 1960. So clearly, not only is the office not really focused on those kind of fine details, but
Yeah,
neither are the homeowners, because those are the kind of things that the homeowners
yeah.
could go back in and
Editor
correct the
change.
record.
Yeah, yeah.
Be, be,
So let me ask you, and maybe you know this and maybe you don't, because you went to Google Earth and you found these photos, and clearly other people live in these now. But is that a mailbox in front of the house on
there
South
are
Main?
mailboxes now all along Main Street. As I
Oh,
Google Street View,
wow.
they actually have mailboxes in front of, and there's two boxes in front of the South Main. So I figure I don't know if it's that and what would be on the corner. We were 107, so was it 105 going north at Chicken Gladys's house, the Hetrick's house?
Yeah,
But
I
it,
don't
it
know.
looks like that mailbox with two boxes on it, one post, two boxes, was for both houses. And
Okay.
yes, it was sitting more in front of the house. So maybe they're delivering on Main Street that way.
So to those of you that are listening to this, some of you that live in Lindsay might be able to update us and tell us, but Eric and I were trying to remember the house number versus our post office box number, which was 115. I never said 115. I always said 115. And do you remember the code? Was it CFA or something?
Yeah, there was a CF. That's what I was coming up with. C was the first one, and
Isn't it funny that we can't remember
combo
this morning?
characters? But we know our phone number.
We know our phone number back then. So one of the things that you and I talked about that made me think that those two homes were built around the same time, the North and the South Main, is because both of them had metal kitchens. And I remember that the house that you were until you were 6, that was white metal, and it had what now, of course, is a mid-century go back in time, find it in an antique store kind of sink that had the drain attached to it. The water piece was it all set in and it drained there. And then when I moved in whatever year we moved, 95 or something, the tax record showed us when we moved to the house on 134 North Main, that also had a metal kitchen. And the owner was an electrician and had a business in town, Wilsey Fote. And I remember hearing that the GE kitchen that we had was like a really special thing at the time. And the refrigerator and the freezer were up above the countertop, which, to think of that now, me having a family of 5 with that tiny little refrigerator, doesn't that seem super small compared to
what we look at is our standard refrigerators? You know, we've been in our house now for 20 years, and the space that was built for a refrigerator, when we had to replace it, we had to special order because the new standard was now wider than the space we had. And without having to tear apart walls, and you think of how small some of those old appliances were that we all grew up with, that it was the luxury end model. And you look at now going, oh, okay, so that's your wine cooler, or that's your beverage.
Right. You're right.
Your
Or
beverage
like
fridge, right?
They get moved. Dorm. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that I thought we've talked again, we have said about small, and we've used village and we've talked small town. Yeah. But when I did all the distances between the houses, you could do the full loop from, let's start with Main Street, North or South Main Street to our house. That was 0.13 miles. From Lynn to your house on Walnut was 0.11 miles. From Walnut to North Main was a whopping 0.22 miles. And the big one was going from North Main to the Lynn Street house. When you had to make that route, it was a full quarter of a mile, by gosh.
So when I rode my bike down and back, I was really getting a workout.
And I thought, you know what? You could probably pretty much do. I mean, those are straight line distances, or as we might refer to as the crow flies.
Yeah.
And the fact that you could leave your house on North Main, go down the sidewalk, turn and walk up the alley, and be at Dad's place when he left in 2001. Was a full quarter mile. By
and yet if you look at these pictures, look how big all of our yards were. Nobody was like shaking hands with their neighbor out the window like in some of the new subdivisions out here.
Well, shaking hands, I didn't experience fences and privacy fences until I got here to San Antonio, and it's like, well, it's got a privacy fence. It's like, what is a privacy fence? What do you mean?
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. So the other, so we were talking about when I got to Main Street at 134. So that was pink. She had done a whole lot of pink and kind of brown in the house. I ended up painting those cabinets, spraying those white. And frankly, I liked having metal cabinets. They were good cabinets. And then I had painted the walls yellow. And I was thinking about this after you and I hung up.
Because the two teenage boys and preteen you had at that house at that point.
Exactly.
They were rugged.
And the other thing that we did was the carpet was kind of white in the living room, pretty white.
Was it sculptured too?
No, it was like a small plush, but the wallpaper was flocked, and I painted all of that wallpaper kind of a hunter green, because we had big windows all the way across the front, which you can kind of see in the picture behind me.
Right.
And we had, and then I had the light carpet. So I painted all that flocked wallpaper rather than tearing it all down. It's just so weird to think about it now, working where we work, what we do, how you fix things, how you don't, you know?
Well, you know the barn that was part of the property.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
just to let you know how much we had impact on that house. Did you know that I had painted that whole barn?
At 134?
Yes.
When did you paint
Mr.
that?
Mr. Fote paid me late 1970, I want to say 79, 80 before you guys moved back. And I scraped
Really?
and painted the whole barn as a summer job one time. Yep.
I had no idea about that. Wow. Okay, so that's the two that we think were owned by the same family and we think we know a little bit of history about. And then the one that was on Walnut Street on the corner of Walnut, that was owned by Mrs. Copley's parents by and he was in the what you call it? We call it a garage, but would you say it's
He
a
had
box?
he had like a shop in the back. It was a
He had
cinder
a shop,
block
but he
shop.
was a
It was
fix-it
pretty
guy.
unusual. Yeah, he was a
He fixed
small engine
vacuums.
repair maintenance
Yeah,
appliance
yeah.
place.
And when I go into a home now and I think about the fact that we had the little mudroom space and then there was a crawl down to the basement, they had the screened-in porch, which you can't see in the picture behind me because of the way it's facing. But and then walked into the kitchen and we had the one bathroom. We had a not big bathroom for a family of 5 with our bedrooms. Gil and my bedroom was like right there. And when I think about that, I don't even know where the closet was. Like I can't even picture.
Well, and part of it, we talked about the addition that went on the back end
Yeah.
because out the patio that you guys built, right? Didn't
Yeah, we built
Bill
that
build the
wooden
patio?
patio. Yeah, yeah,
And they had what was originally a porch that had been covered, that had kind of
yep,
become the playroom
yep,
area. And then out from there, you had the sidewalk
yep,
next to your pool that went out to the shop, to
yep,
Mr. Copley's shop.
yep.
So that entire space has now been filled in. And based on what you see for the number of baths and half bath, there's got to be bathroom put into that addition somehow that they've made some of that living space.
Maybe. I don't know. And by the way, we have to remember, I have to try to think, it was Mrs. Copley's parents, and I'm trying to remember
Right.
her
I
maiden
know. I
name, but
said Mr. Copley, and it's
yeah,
like,
no,
okay,
but
so
it's
that
just
wouldn't have been it.
yeah, that's a whole generation prior to us. So then the other thing that you and I talked a little bit about was bathrooms, right? And yeah. What are
You
okay,
blew my mind.
I know.
You did. I had.
Yeah. So
So
the
this,
house on South Main, Eric was like, they're showing 2 bathrooms. And I said, yeah, Dad added an extra bathroom. And now we're gonna find out if our older brother agrees with this. He's not here with us to interrupt like he was on our first episode.
does
But
he listen?
I doubt it. I doubt it. However, there was the bathroom that was there that you had to walk through to get to the bedroom that was Mom and Dad's. And then Dad had added on somehow, some way, a living space where we had that Franklin stove and the laundry room. And the laundry room eventually had a shower and a toilet. And you were just saying that you have no recollection of that at all. Nothing.
No,
Okay.
and I think most of that is because my age, Mom was a type
Yeah,
5 and 6 year olds didn't take showers.
that's true.
It's
Yeah.
whatever Dad put together. It was not something that, even as big as I was, they were not going to trust me in a small shower that was added at the back end of the house.
Yeah,
But
probably not.
I have no memory of that bathroom whatsoever.
And I have a really clear memory of it, so we'll see whether it's true. We'll try to find out to see. And then
The other
go ahead.
when you look at them and you look at the square footage of the houses, you
Okay.
can see we kind of made a steady tick up. So the
Yeah.
one on South Main Street is showing as being just under 1,900 square feet. Lynn Street, without counting the third floor attic mansard, was over or about 2,100 square feet. Your house on Walnut Street was 1,700 square feet. And then you moved to the biggest house, down
21
at
or
North Main, which is 2152, and that doesn't include the breezeway patio that was on the ground
Yeah.
level,
Yeah.
the sunken patio that was on the back side of the house,
Yeah.
plus the
Yeah.
garage.
Yeah.
And we talked about that too, the fact that all three of the first houses, Lynn Street, South Main, and Walnut, had separate detached garages or accessory structures.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
house on Main Street, North Main, 134 North Main, was the first one to have an attached garage. And when you look at the rest of the town, you can see that it was a small farming agri economy that almost everybody had an accessory structure. We know that, heck, when we lived on the South Main Street, that they were still butchering chickens in the backyard, lopping them off with the head,
They were,
hanging them on the
yeah.
fence, and then letting them run to bleed out.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You got to do me a favor. You got to lean to your left. Okay. So that allows you to see the house that was next to us, you guys. So if you're watching it, and I'm going to specifically say that this is where Mrs. Weaver lived. And now I can call out her grandkids to have a look at this, because we got to know them when they came and played, at their grandma's house, and that porch that was all the way around. And I wonder if they ever closed that all the way. And that was a screen-in porch when we were young. But
and of course, Mrs. Weaver is where one of her grandsons, Greg, was in school with me. We graduated the same year.
Granddaughter
and
with
that's
me.
where I took piano lessons for several years. Sharon Davis and I took competing piano lessons. I
I didn't know you took piano lessons.
I did. I took piano lessons for. You were probably out running around the world at that point.
I don't remember.
When I'm taking piano lessons.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So
we did talk. We need to wrap up, but
yeah.
One of the final things I think we had mentioned is the fact that all of the older houses that according to the auditor's office were built in 1900 started with a single bathroom, may have had a half bath.
Right.
It was the largest house on North Main that had 2 full bathrooms designed in plus 2 half baths.
Yes. Now that you say that, so up by
because there was one downstairs, right?
There was one right when you came in from the swimming pool when we were growing up. There was one down there, and there was one right off the kitchen. Gosh, I had forgotten that there was half bath off the kitchen, and then the one in our bathroom, which was a typical mid-century modern 1950s. You had a tiny little one in the master, but it had a shower and a sink and a stool, and then the main one. I called it the main one because it was one where the kids all had used. I had forgotten there were 4. Dang, man. See, so we all forget things, and that's the house I lived in, Eric.
That's the one you lived in most recently.
I know. Yeah. I remember the old stuff better than the new stuff.
And the standard now is it needs to be 3-bedroom, needs to be 2-bath, and it needs to be the ensuite. But the fact that house built in as a mid-century had 2 full bathrooms and 2 half baths. In addition to that breezeway porch and the big windows, there were so many things about that house that I remember distinctly different from the traditional early farm architecture, the higher pitched roofs and all of that sort of thing.
Yeah. And when I go back, I know I go back more than you do. I lived there a lot longer than you did, so when I go back, I always look to see, I don't know if you can see the pine trees. I always look to see if the pine trees we planted along the field at 134, how big they are these days. We thought it was cool to get different kinds of pine trees, but then as they grew, you kind of wish they would have all been the same, but not my thing. And then as I look at the one on Walnut Street, that was an old, I forget what that siding was called. It was kind of a grooved, almost like an asbestos with shingles, and they've totally refinished it. The couple that lived there. And I think it's the couple that bought it from us. I think based on the tax records, it's the same people.
Same family.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's actually now addressing what we have put into the opening sequence of this on every single episode. So now you know that there really were 4 houses.
Exactly. We're not lying.
Donna, close us out.
All righty. So as we wrap it up, we want to thank everybody for listening and joining us for this real stroll down memory lane. Some we remember, some we don't. We reflect and recall how life in this small village of Lindsay impacted our lives and careers in real estate. It isn't just the houses. It was and it wasn't just the lifestyle. It really is a blend of the two, which we have carried forward into our lives and careers. As we wrap this up, keep in mind that our goal is to communicate, educate, entertain, and connect with you, our listeners. So if you're in Arizona, specifically the Tucson area, or South Central Texas near San Antonio, we are both realtors with Keller Williams, and we're here to help you find the perfect property for your family to call home and create your own lasting memories. If you are across the United States or somewhere around the world, we are both part of an extensive network of professional real estate advisors, and we'd be happy to connect you with another amazing realtor. So remember, it may be simple, but it ain't always easy. And until next time, I'm Donna.
And I'm Eric.
And we are real
siblings.
Let's do it again. We are
real siblings.
We're getting worse at this, Eric.
Thanks, y'all.
For joining us. Bye.